On today's show, an iconic Hollywood filmmaker and his docufilm. Also, a sit-down with one of Canada's most well-known business icons. And music with one of Vancouver's rising stars. Let's get ready for all of this right now on The Ledge.
Hello and welcome you watching The Ledge. I'm your host, Lola Acala. It's our show's very first episode, yes. And we are so excited that you could join us. For me personally, it's what I've worked towards for such a long time with my amazing crew family who have stuck by my side all this while, slugging it out with me. I just love you guys, and I know I speak for you all when I say it truly is a blessing to see all our efforts finally come to this point. So each week for you, our incredible audience, we will bring you unique content. It's music, it's art and culture, everything fun and educational, stories from personalities right here at home in Canada and our world at large. No topic is out of bounds. If it's important to you, it's important to us. We hope you'll spend some time with us each week. So let's get right to it. We have a great show lined up for you today. My first guest is an incredible Canadian business icon who has done much to contribute to the economic fabric of not just our city, but our nation as a whole. Now, I have a bit of a backstory as to how I actually met this person. It was back in 2012. It was my first week starting work as an intern right here at Shaw TV. It was about 7:40 in the morning. I just swiped my card to take me up a few floors when I realized very quickly that my card wasn't activated. In fact, the elevator had taken me up a few floors, brought me back down, doors open, and in walks this person, to my shock and amazement a little bit. Of course, we say good morning, the doors close, and I resume my panic trying to get myself up a few floors where I needed to be. And of course, once again, nothing happened. And it was at this point that he saw what was going on with me that he said something to the effect, card not working, and I said, I haven't the faintest what's wrong with it. It's my first week, and I'm trying not to be late this morning. And he said, late, first week, we won't let that happen. And they swiped their side of the elevator. Seconds later, I'm on my floor, and I thank him, wish him well, and that was that. Well, it wasn't until a few years later that I decided that it would be wonderful to have him as an interview guest. And as they say, the rest is history. So please join me as I give you my very first guest on The Ledge. Let's take a look.
Having come from a car dealership family, Jim Pattison knew exactly what he wanted to do. Follow in the footsteps of his father, and that he did, and so much more. Starting with one car dealership and on to the next, Jim Pattison went on to become one of the best car dealership salesmen and business icon Canada's ever seen, building himself a corporate empire of goods and services worth billions of dollars today.
To be creative and innovative in a very fast-moving world.
Joining me on the show today is a very special guest. He's a Canadian business icon, a global philanthropist. He is president, managing director, CEO, chairman, and sole owner of his own business group. It is the multi-talented Jim Pattison. Hello.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon indeed. Thank you so much for having us. I mean, we work just downstairs, but to see this incredible building from this vantage point, it really is something to see.
Well, we've got a good view here.
Absolutely breathtaking. Thank you so much for having us. So, you are very much beloved in our community, not just our community, but our country as a whole, because you are an amazing, inspiring business icon. I think a lot must have to do with the fact that, just like many of us, you worked odd jobs until you became a car salesman, and that's really where the story begins. Now, if you could share some of that lovely, amazing beginning with us.
Well, there's nothing complicated. It's the fact that I was fortunate enough to be brought up in a country like Canada, close to the United States, under a democratic system and a free enterprise opportunity. And so I was very fortunate that I had a chance to grow up in Vancouver. Although I came from Saskatchewan, my family did, and my dad moved out here. So anyway, it all worked out okay, and I'm very grateful to the good Lord for making that all happen.
Now, along the way, as you went on to acquire one dealership after another, what were some of the biggest, challenges for you, and what were some of your biggest lessons in trying to build this amazing empire that you have
Well,
today?
listen, there's nothing goes straight up in life. You always have some setbacks, disappointments, and particularly in the early years, the Canadian banks were very important to me. They helped me, they hurt me.
Yeah.
I had the banks call my loans over the years, and the Canadian banks, but over a long period of time, the banks have been very helpful to me. Because if you don't have any money to start with, you have to borrow money, and that's what I did.
And I've heard, another industry giant say when it comes to investing that it is always Warren Buffett. He says it's always about waiting for the right pitch. Now, he likes to talk in baseball analogies because he's a baseball guy. But for you, when it comes to investing and, acquisitions, what is it that you look for when it comes to choosing a particular venture?
Well, we're not investors like Warren Buffett at all. Warren Buffett is a world-class investor and a very, very wise man. We are operators, and we buy businesses a lot of times that are not doing well, and over time try to improve them. So we're not a typical investor.
What are your thoughts on capitalism and its absolute goal to optimize profit over all else? Basically, when we look at it in its present form, it's really doing a lot of damage to humanity, community, the environment. Is there a way that you think we can evoke a different form of, application that actually, let's say, a conscious kind of capitalism that maybe necessitates owners to be a little bit more responsible, to be a little bit more conscious in terms of humanity, the environment, because in its present form and its application, it's just not sustainable for humanity and the environment, would you say? What are your thoughts on this?
Well, all I know is that is if there's a better system than what we got, where is it in the world? Then the highest standard of living are in countries where the free enterprise system works. And it's not perfect, but
Indeed.
I don't know a lot of countries that have different policies that do as well as over the years that we have.
It's not, like you say, it's a system that's not perfect. And we see more damage that's been done to a vast majority of people. So is it?
Well, that's in your opinion.
No, I don't think so.
No, you got to be fair here now. The whole free enterprise system has made it possible
tweaking, maybe?
for television and for the standard of living. And the standard of living has come up in the world. Certainly, it's not perfect.
And that's the part.
But people, certainly the governments, are working hard to try to improve the things that happen.
I think it's a personal obligation as well for business owners, maybe in terms of knowing that they do maybe need to be a little bit more conscious. Maybe let's move along. You are considered a phenomenal philanthropist, a global philanthropist. In the way that you donate money and help others, it just doesn't end here in our borders. Why is it so important for you to give in the way you do? And is it also all tied to your evangelical Christian faith? Because I've heard that you give 10% of your income.
We give money to the things that we think will be helpful. If we make money, we think it's important to help people that don't have the same opportunities that we have.
Yeah.
I think everybody gives money.
Not everybody.
But I tell you, everybody can give something. Giving your time,
Yes.
in my opinion, is actually more
Much
important
more.
than giving money, because a lot of
Sometimes.
people can't give the money.
Yeah.
But they can help the community by
Indeed.
giving their time.
Very much.
Again, and a lot of people do.
Indeed.
And people that are volunteers in hospitals and little leagues and parents that help all these things, I think they deserve a lot of credit because they give of their time.
Now, let's talk about you. You've been doing all this 8 decades now. You're going to be, I believe, 86 sometime this year.
In October.
In October, absolutely. Where do you get the energy? And when you get up in the morning, is it still very exciting for you to get up and come to work?
Well, I get in the same elevator you do some mornings.
Indeed, you do.
No, if you like what I like what I do, so I don't consider it work.
Yes. Okay, what is your idea of a relaxing weekend? And I don't mean anything that has to do with business.
I would say a good relaxing weekend is go out in my boat and read, play a little music.
I've heard
and take a few friends along.
Aww.
That would be my idea of a good time.
That sounds like a good time. Mr. Pattison, it's been a wonderful evening. Thank you so much for having us. It's been such a real pleasure.
And how incredible was that? The very multi-talented Jim Pattison. You know, who knew that a chance encounter in an elevator would lead to all of that? You know, it's why I tend to say sometimes that there are no accidents in life, that some of the things that come to happen to us for a reason. And it truly is up to us to try to make something out of each and every opportunity that comes our way each day. For it truly is true, that notion that opportunities not taken are opportunities lost forever. So never be afraid to take the bull by the horn and make big leaps out of nothing, because more than anything, you owe that to yourself. And I gotta say, what an incredible interviewer Jim Pattison is. He is funny, smart, sharp as a tack. And of course, there were moments during that interview that he didn't particularly make things too easy for me, especially when it seemed he and I were agreeing to disagree on certain issues, but I would have expected nothing less than for him to keep me on my toes. It truly was an incredible experience. Up next, an iconic Hollywood filmmaker and his incredible docu-film, which shed some different light into some past and present history of the United States. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
Today's generation of young people spend the least amount of time outside of any generation in human history. We need to have children out, we need to have people out in order to see the world around that allows us to live. I think something like the Sea to Sky Trail is the epitome of what we need to get people back out into the real world, to see nature as it can be, and something that we are a part of and that we must fight to protect.
Hello and welcome back. If you're just joining us, you're watching The Ledge. I'm your host, Lola Acala. It's our show's very first episode. So glad you could join us. There is a famous quote that says that history is written by victors, often because it allows victors, whether right or wrong, to overwhelmingly influence historical accounts in their own favor. And when it comes to some American political history, there are some who will argue that this is in fact the case. And one man who takes great opposition to those very historical accounts that we're all familiar with, simply because of all of which has been left untold, is someone we all know quite well. He's a critically acclaimed Academy Award-winning writer and film director. He's won 3 Academy Awards, 2 as Best Director for Platoon and Born on the 4th of July, and in a recent project, he co-authors and produces the docu-film, The Untold History of the United States, which is a compelling expose on the United States methodology in acquiring its world power position. The docu-film debuted here in Vancouver this past summer, facilitated by Vancouver's very own public art organizers, the Vancouver Biennale. So sit back and get ready for some history lessons like you and I never got taught in school as I visit the Vancouver Biennale's Sign Fest live with Oliver Stone. Welcome to the Vancouver Biennale's Sign Fest live, featuring the incredible docu-film, The Untold Stories of the United States by none other than the history-making, the history-changing legendary filmmaker. It's the incomparable Oliver Stone.
Wow, okay.
Hello. Welcome to Vancouver. It's so great to see you.
It's nice to be here. It's a beautiful city.
Indeed. And once again, an incredible, thought-provoking piece of filmmaking. I mean, for some of us who are very familiar with your work.
Yeah,
This
this
doesn't
is
really...
no. This is a culmination of all my efforts.
Yes.
All the themes of my movies are basically in these 12 hours, stretching from 1898 to 2013.
Indeed.
This is an unconventional view of the United States history, which you don't learn in school. That's why I did it.
How long did it take you to put the entire piece together, both the book and the movie?
It took 5 years. I worked with a team of historians led by Peter Kuznick, who American University professor of 30 years. But we started with the series 12 hours, and it was a backbreaker. And then we wrote the book because we felt that it was getting so deep that we had to back it up. We couldn't cover everything.
A large number of the book and the movie talks about an unknown historical figure, Henry Wallace, who was the 33rd Vice President of the United States.
Yes,
and,
among others. Yes.
And yet, you know, he has
Wallace
been
is a very
virtually
important
wiped
character.
out of most historic books.
It's typical of the many things in this book are forgotten. I mean, it's not like untold in the sense that it has been reported. And Wallace's absence from the ticket in '44 is that difference.
I think it was also because they felt like maybe Wallace, for some reason, his ideology didn't fit with
Wallace
that.
does not fit at all. He's more like a Jimmy Stewart in Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. He's considered naive, idealistic, but he's not. He was also a very powerful man in his day and was a great vice president as well as a wonderful Secretary of Agriculture that saved American agriculture in the heart of the Depression.
Indeed.
And he would have been a great post-war leader because he understood, he was a generous man. That's what we're trying to say. We need Roosevelts, we need Kennedys, we need Wallaces. We don't need small-minded little politicos who have a narrow vision of the world about American interests primarily, and all that matters is America. We are a global power. We have the greatest, biggest military in the world. We have to be very judicious how we use it.
Now, some of the reservations that you had, you know, about President Obama during his first term in office was the way that he carried on, well, seemingly carried on with, you know, former President George Bush's foreign and economic policies. Yes. Now, particularly the economic policies, in the way that he didn't follow through with his own promises to, you know, enforce and enact those regulations that would put a stop to some of these, you know, the financial big banks and the CEOs, you know, continuing to, you know, give themselves these lavish, you know, bonuses. And so he's been in office now, second term, a few years in. How would you say that he's doing this time around? Or is it just a case, when we think about Henry Wallace, that the institutional structure that's been put in place is such that it will impede anyone from virtually making any one of those changes, whether they liked it or not?
I believe you're right. I think it is institutional. I don't think that any one man can change the tide. But most important, I think he's defeated the hopes of a generation of young people, such as yourself, who really saw things, wow, this guy's going to make a difference. I'm going to go out and vote. I really believe in a vibrant democracy. You do all that, it doesn't make any difference because the guy he goes in and he's surrounded by the national security state, and they're telling him every day, okay, your life is threatened 20 times a day. This kind of terror attacks here and there. They pump it up and they make you, I got to do something. I can't possibly lose my mandate by being sloppy here. So the next thing you know, you become a prisoner of this national security state, global security state, I'm sorry.
I'm sure there are those nationalists who will see you as anti-American to some extent.
But listen, I do my best. I am, as you know, I've served my country in Vietnam. I believed all that.
Yes.
I was brainwashed, but I went over there and I did my time. I was decorated,
yes,
and I served honorably.
Yeah.
So you know, if anything, I've done more than Dick Cheney or any of the chicken hawks have done who avoided the draft at any expense.
Let me ask you, do you think that had you not had the combat experience, because there's no doubt that combat changed you in so many ways, I mean, had you just learned all of these things in university, how do you think that combat experience has changed your focal viewpoint?
More stamina and it gave me perhaps more moral courage. This academic system is filled with progressive people at a high level. Unfortunately, at the high school level, we have to get to the teachers, and there are many good teachers, to teach this kind of history because this is not getting taught at a basic level.
You say in the movie that you dedicated this movie to the younger generation who have been denied, you know, some form of historical memory. Is it your goal that by, you know, schooling these new generation of kids in some way, that by us showing them the mistakes of the past, that maybe we can somehow, you know, come back and maybe help bring us back to the laws of civilization, like you said?
Very interesting question. Yeah, no, I think it's crucial. And in fact, someone told me that Mr. Snowden had seen Untold History of the United States
yes.
before he when he was in his last phases at the NSA. So I'm glad that he saw it, and I think the younger journalists have responded when they see it. Don't dismiss it. Watch it. You may not agree with it, but watch it. Stay open to these ideas. And I'm hoping that this new generation, like Snowden, will have the conscience to stand up.
Not a lot of people would have the courage to stand up and do what you do, and with such convictions. I believe, if you allow me, it was Martin Luther King who said that our lives begin to end the day we become silent about the things that matter. And I think that it's important to say that on behalf of the American people who value this project, and us Canadians who absolutely love what you've done, and the rest of the world, I just want to say thank you so much for everything that you do, because we absolutely appreciate. I believe that the world needs more people like you.
Thank you, Lola.
Mr. Oliver Stone, thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you, sweetheart.
And that was such an incredible experience for me. As someone who loves to see people be driven by their convictions, in this case about truth, democracy, and justice. But Stone is not just fighting for this for Americans, he's fighting for this for all people of the world, as also deserving prosperity in their lives. Importantly, too, is that he's teaching us to remember some of the things that were done wrong in the past, maybe in the hopes that we don't continue to make the same mistakes into the future. Also, too, is that I see him standing up for what we've all come to understand, albeit theoretically, as the true American tradition of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But once again, Stone's not just fighting for this for Americans, he's extending that very notion to all people in the world as also deserving. Which was why it was so important for me to commend Stone in this type of thinking, because as we all know, very few people in our world think that all people are deserving. And it is why our world needs people like Stone and other truth seekers to keep fighting for the truth and what is just and what is right, for all people who are unable to speak for themselves. If I may, and borrow the wonderful Martin Luther King once again, who also said that never ever be afraid to do what's right, especially if the well-being of a person or an animal is at stake. For society's punishments are small compared to the wounds that will inflict on our soul when we know that we've looked the other way. We'll be right back.
I think the Sea to Sky Trail is very unique in the fact that people with different disabilities, different levels of disabilities, maybe not even disabilities, maybe someone with a stroller or someone who just has a hard time walking. Just having a trail of this extent, going through the wilderness the way that it does, we never get to see that anywhere, and we never get to use something like that anywhere. You don't have to be disabled, but just to be out with your friends, your family, it's so important and it's so rewarding.
Welcome back. You're watching The Ledge. Up next, Vancouver's very own Adrian Glenn.
Some things are impossible to move. Do you still have them, Bruce? Hearts racing, don't make a sound. The best things we take laying down. Time to lose. I had no time to lose. Some things we cannot remove. Do you still have them, Bruce? Hearts aching, don't make a sound. Hands shaking, laying down, I'm laying down. laying down. I'm laying down, down, down. I'm laying down, I'm laying down, laying down, I'm laying down, for you. Do you still have the blues?
That was so beautiful. Thank you so much. The wonderful, talented Adrian Glenn, everyone. And that's our show. I'd like to thank my guest, Oliver Stone, Jim Pattison, and the wonderfully talented Adrian Glenn. And you at home, thank you so much for watching. We'd love to hear from you. If you have any questions or comment, or you just want to tell us how we're doing, please send us a message to our address at theledgetvmedia@gmail.com, or any of our Facebook pages, or you can send me a tweet at Lola Acala. And remember, guys, it is so much better to spread love than hate, because love is so much more powerful and beautiful. Until next time, take care of one another. We'll see you soon.
Before you know it,